Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. So, unfortunately, that new government contract for Tesla appears to be crumbling before our eyes. As predicted in yesterday's video, nearly immediately outlets began referring to this deal as self-dealing between Elon and Trump, which we were clear is not the case if you care at all about the facts. Rachel Maddow had a 5-minute segment criticizing this move, and others like Rolling Stone and NPR joined in on the party. Now, whether the backing off of this deal by Elon and some others is just because of the optics or something deeper, we just don't know. However, the word is the plan was set in motion by the Biden admin last year as part of a move to convert the Bureau of Diplomatic Security's fleet of about 3,000 armored vehicles into zero-emission vehicles. This department is responsible for the safety of personnel posted to U.S. embassies around the world. According to the State Department, only a single company responded to last year's request for information, which people are assuming is Tesla, and there are currently no plans for this award to continue. Ordinarily, the next step in the process would be an official solicitation being sent out to vehicle manufacturers to bid on this contract, but the solicitation is now on hold and there are no current plans to issue it. Elon did say, "I'm pretty sure Tesla is not getting $400 million. No one mentioned it to me, at least." And for a little chuckle, S.E. Robinson to Elon said, "Hey, maybe Biden had a sweet spot for you after all," to which Elon said, "Unlikely." And separately, the State Department did say it has no plans of fulfilling this contract. It sounds like the Biden administration was looking to explore the interest from private companies to produce armored electric vehicles, and Tesla was the only company that expressed an interest. Clearly, though, this is a developing story. The State Department is also saying that it would still allow companies to submit proposals. Looking at the procurement document, it has actually now been updated. The word Tesla has been removed here, but they still have this line item for armored electric vehicles. As we said yesterday, some of that $400 million likely would have gone to other companies that actually do the upfitting or the armoring of these vehicles, and it was released that ArmorMax was contacted for this job, a company based in Utah. Also in this procurement document, you have armored BMW X5 and X7, and then another line for armored EV, not a sedan. Those were lines 24 and 25, and each were allocated $40 million, so BMW may be getting some of this money for armored vehicles. But as we've seen with Doge, a lot of the spending plans from the prior administration are getting nixed right now, and this seems to be more of the same. It was exciting while it lasted, but based on the developments the past 24 hours, I would say for now, this contract for Tesla is off the table, null and void. But as mentioned, this may not be the last time we hear about this story. Today, Hertz finally announced that they are done selling their inventory of 30,000 electric vehicles, most of which were Teslas. Keep in mind though, just because they're off the books for Hertz does not mean that there aren't some of those used Tesla vehicles from Hertz still on third-party markets. Either way, the main takeaway is that most of the pricing pressure for the used Tesla market should now be in the past. I've been on the lookout for some new video footage of FSD 13.2.7, and here's a clip from Darren showing a four-way stop where the traffic lights were down completely. In this scenario, as far as I know, it should be treated as a four-way stop sign, so this Tesla vehicle should have stopped as if it was a stop sign, letting this vehicle from the left go through as it was at the intersection first. Mrs. Dirty Tesla said 13.2.7 annoyed me a little yesterday with some random decelerations. But then there are some other clips of 13.2.7 navigating busier parking lots and finding parking spots on its own. There are some new free FSD trials rolling out with this version. We actually just got one for our Model Y. I really share these clips as vigilance reminders, and Chris from Dirty Tesla also said this version didn't stop for a traffic light that was not working. It's too early for me to have noticed any other patterns, but let us know below what your disengagements have been. At least part of the reason there's been a little relief rally for Tesla stock is the word is Elon will withdraw his $97 billion bid for OpenAI's nonprofit arm if they stop their conversion into a for-profit entity. A court filing said if OpenAI's board is prepared to preserve the charity's mission and stipulate to take the for sale sign off its assets by halting its conversion, Elon will withdraw the bid. And yes, over the past few days, Sam Altman has said publicly a few times that it is not for sale. But we still need to see what OpenAI does as far as converting to a for-profit entity. If you have not heard of the company Caresoft, just think of them like a Monroe Live. They tear down vehicles and break it down part by part, getting down to the penny. Caresoft has been tearing down some Chinese EVs, and their takeaway, the Detroit 3 and many other global legacy automakers are in a brutal battle for survival. They said the Detroit 3 and other legacy automakers are being outsmarted and out-hustled by a creative and hungry Chinese auto industry. But not only that, listen to this, the Chinese government, through an organization called the China Auto Tech and Research Center, works with its homegrown automakers on industry standards so that all of these competing automakers can actually use the same components to reduce complexity and lower cost. So what you have here are these brands that compete with each other in China that are actually using the same parts. So what Tesla did with the Model 3 and Y for a long time is what the Chinese companies are doing with each other. A Caresoft exec said that these Chinese companies are really focused on Africa, South America, and the 10 countries that make up the Association of the Southeast Asian Nations. As we highlighted all last year, the Chinese brands are still focused on their global expansion outside of China. MG, which is actually owned by Chinese company SAIC, outsold Ford, Hyundai, and Honda in Mexico in 2024. Caresoft said what's far from clear is if Mary Barra, Jim Farley, and Stellantis leadership can change their companies fast enough to get them in fighting shape for when the Chinese get to the North American market, meaning the US. To that point, Farley just said, what I'm always amazed at for the last 3 to 4 years with the Chinese is their speed. Everybody talks about how good they are, how cheap they are, but what they should be talking about is how fast they are. Caresoft's president said what we see from the Chinese is an existential threat. I think it threatens the existence of some of these companies. I have no idea what will happen 5 years from now, but I do know what I see and I can extrapolate. Things are going to change. And just so you know, it's not a made-up sentiment, but the Chinese government is encouraging this intense competition among automakers, knowing that some companies are not going to make it. And it's through this survival of the fittest strategy that they're expecting only the best companies to survive and eventually be competitive on the global market. As an example, the Caresoft team, they gave a presentation in China on a Saturday morning, which was not a working day, and there were 700 people in the auditorium to hear what they had to say, really expressing how the Chinese have a hunger that's very different than the US market. The Caresoft CEO said, if I need to get a meeting with a German OEM, it takes me 2 months. In China, in 1 week, you're done. It takes 9 months to get a purchase order from a legacy OEM. In China, it takes 1 month. And the Caresoft president concluded there has to be a willingness to learn from the Chinese, Tesla, and other startups that are unencumbered by century-old methods of vehicle development. We've been saying how the demise of some of these legacy companies has been delayed a few years thanks to the hybrid renaissance, although that may be temporary. Some companies that weren't able to capitalize on that wave, like Nissan, are now very close to the end. Not only are they laying off 9,000 employees around the world, but now they're planning to close 3 factories in the next 2 years, cut shifts at US plants, slash executive ranks by 20%, and continue to look for new partners in a bid to keep their company alive. As I said, for me, the jury is still out when it comes to the Chinese and how far along they are with autonomous efforts. However, when it comes to making software-defined, high-tech, high-quality electric vehicles, there really is no arguing that the Chinese are on an entirely different level than legacy auto. And with the focus of these Chinese companies now expanding into the global market, all of those companies that can't match the speed of the Chinese are in big trouble over the next 3 to 5 years. Dara, Uber's CEO, just gave a new interview and he had some words about Tesla. Speaking of Uber, he said hardware was not our superpower. At some point, companies have to know theirs. There are very few companies in the world who are great at hardware and software. Tesla, Apple are probably two of the leads. It's very difficult to pull off. They spent a lot of time talking about autonomy and regulations, and Dara said companies need to have a cost-effective, scaled hardware platform, and right now there are not that many. There are not those platforms that have the redundancy, the compute, the sensor kits, etc. for autonomous vehicles. It's going to come in 3 to 4 years, but right now, that hardware problem, with the exception of Tesla, it does not exist. And listen, I'll say it again. Of course, Dara is going to butter up Elon and Tesla publicly because he wants Elon to decide to partner with Uber for robotaxis. Obviously, what Dara is saying here is factually true. It's not like he's making it up. Both things can be true. Dara said the player who works with us is going to be able to expand into every single market very, very quickly. We'll be the first to market, and being first to market matters. And I think those two elements, which is the lowest cost of capital and the ability to scale the fastest, are going to play to the advantage that we bring in terms of being the best partner for autonomous vehicles in the world. And finally, he said, yeah, listen, no one wants to compete against Tesla or Elon if you can help it. Their capabilities are pretty extraordinary, but I think the same economic laws apply to them. Ultimately, if Tesla puts their cars on our network, we already have 150,000 drivers who are driving Teslas, and if they get FSD, they would love to plug it into Uber as well. Then that Tesla, by the way, could be on both Uber and Tesla's network, and that's going to create much more revenue. Ultimately, that'll increase the value of the Tesla, so the residual value of that car improves. And if they don't do that, there will be some other OEM that does, which of course is making the dangerous assumption that other OEMs are going to solve for autonomy. Ultimately, we're hoping that my charm and the economic argument gets Tesla to work with us as well. If they want a direct channel though, no problem. I know opinions are mixed when it comes to Tesla and Uber, so I'm curious, just say Uber yes if you think Tesla will put their vehicles on the Uber network, or Uber no if you think Tesla will do everything themselves. The Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, did meet with Elon Musk today in DC, and they talked about space, mobility, technology, and innovation. No real details have come out about this conversation, but we should not be expecting any factories in India for Tesla anytime in the next 12 months. For my Canadians, starting tomorrow, February 14th to the 23rd, the Tesla Cybercab and the rest of the lineup will be on display at the Canadian International Auto Show. This at the Metro Toronto Convention Center, but based on the pictures, it's looking like you will not be able to get in the Cybercab. Trump is telling his administration to consider imposing reciprocal tariffs on numerous different trading partners around the world. The study should be done by April 1st, and then Trump could act immediately after that. He said, I've decided for fairness, I'll charge a reciprocal tariff, meaning whatever countries charge the US. In almost all cases, they're charging us vastly more than we charge them, but those days are over. Trump said he would enact import taxes on cars, semiconductors, and pharmaceuticals over and above the reciprocal tariffs at a later date. It's too soon to draw any conclusions for Tesla from this. As we've seen, this may be more of a negotiating tactic than anything else, so we'll see how the next few weeks play out. There's going to be a new Dubai loop, and yes, the Boring Company has been chosen for this project.
Which is a loop project that is going to cover Dubai's most densely populated areas for people to go from point to point in a seamless manner. So thank you for your partnership. And
well, thank you.
We hope it changes people's lives.
Tesla stock had a nice day, closing at $355.94, up 5.77%, while the Nasdaq was up 1.5%. The volume was 15% above the average. Part of the reason Lucid is up 12% today is because they promoted Imad Dalala to Senior Vice President of Powertrain starting immediately. He'll take charge of developing drive units as well as batteries and power electronics while optimizing the charging systems and power efficiency at Lucid. The word is Imad played a key role in some of those breakthroughs for Lucid when it comes to their powertrain technology and efficiency. And if Lucid is really going to try to transform to a powertrain supplier, then this role is critically important. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did. You can find me on X, linked below, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.